This is part 5 of the naturalization quiz. Are you smarter than an immigrant? Unlike the other parts of this quiz, I'm going to do this verbally. And there's two reasons. One is because some adjudicators still want to do things orally. Don't want to say that. Hold on. Can you answer the questions that a permanent resident needs to answer to be able to pass the naturalization test? This is part 5 of my little series called Are You Smarter Than an Immigrant? So, to pass this test, you need to get 12 correct out of the 20 questions that I list. So, keep track. Let's see if you can get get at least 12 of them. Why did the colonists fight the British? Well, there's a bunch of different possible answers. This is what they list on USCIS.gov. By the way, you can get all of these questions and answers on USCIS.gov under the Citizenship tab. And they have now included the additional questions they were going to add, which I'll do. I think we have like 3 more parts of this, and I think it's in the last part that I'll give you the new questions as well. Okay, so, sorry, I digress. Why did the colonists fight the British? Possible answers are because of high taxes. That was a very famous phrase that all the little school kids know here, taxation without representation. We didn't have any representation over in England, but we were still being taxed, and the taxes were high. 2, because the British Army stayed in their houses. And by that, I mean they would quarter soldiers in the houses of the colonists, which amendment is that? That's actually one of the amendments, one of the top 10 amendments, that there will be no quartering of soldiers. Another possible answer is because they didn't have self-government, and by that I mean we didn't have self-government, and they wanted, they wanted to represent themselves, not have England represent them. And just so that you know, the American Revolutionary War was fought between 1775 to 1783, and that led to the independence of the United States from Britain. That was always one of the questions when I would go to interviews. They would ask, from whom did we gain independence? And you'd be shocked how many people don't know the answer to that. Anyway, who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Every little American kid knows the answer to this. Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence, which was the formal statement declaring the U.S. its own country, independent from Britain. When was the Declaration of Independence adopted? July 4th, 1776. What happened was that Thomas Jefferson presented this draft, and then it had to go out. I don't know how many copies he had, but he had enough copies to go out to all the different colonies, and each one had to accept it. And I forget which one was last, but the last one signed it on July 4th, 1776, which is why we celebrate the 4th of July. Name 3 of the original, well, this says 3 of the original states. Well, the states were the colonies, and the colonies were the states, but can you name 3 of them? If you're on the East Coast, this should be easy. I'm going to read them so I don't miss any of them. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. What happened at the Constitutional Convention? Just put your little thinking cap on. What would happen at a constitutional convention? They wrote the Constitution, right? The Constitutional Convention took place in Philadelphia from May 14th to September 17th, 1787. Not 1776, 1787. The goal was to redesign the system of government. And I'm going to ask you this question. This used to be, when they could pick and choose which questions they wanted to ask, this used to be the question they always asked. What is the Constitution? It was asked in the very first naturalization interview I went to, and I sat there like, what is the Constitution? Because I hadn't studied these. Now I know these like the back of my hand because I've gone over them with so many people, but I'm like, I don't know, what is the Constitution? I had just gotten out of law school. I had taken many courses about the Constitution. It's like, and my client says, it's the law of the land. And I thought, great, perfect. And the adjudicator frowned at him and he says, it's the supreme law of the land. It's like, okay, sorry. It's the supreme law of the land. And I just did this. Do you remember? When was the Constitution written? 1787. Name one of the writers of the Federalist Papers. Now, come on, people. If you've listened to Hamilton, you know the answer, right? Hamilton, who wrote most of them. James Madison, but also John Jay. So it was mainly Madison, Hamilton, and John Jay. And as we all know from the musical Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton wrote most of them. The why can I not say that word? The Federalist Papers consisted of 85 essays arguing for the ratification of the U.S. Constitution. So that's what they, well, what are the Federalist Papers for? They were trying to convince people that they should ratify the Constitution. Name one thing Benjamin Franklin is famous for. See, the first thing I thought of is not on the list. I thought the first thing I thought of was that he, discovered electricity by flying a kite during a thunder and lightning storm. Not on the list. Okay, he's famous for being a U.S. diplomat. He was sent to France. They loved him in France. The oldest member of the Constitutional Convention. He was the writer of Poor Richard's Almanac, and he started the first free library. I think he started one in Boston and one in Philly. And as you know, maybe you don't, I'm from Philly. So we love Benjamin Franklin over here. Okay, now if this one, you don't get this one, you gotta start all over again. Question number 9 is, who is considered the father of our country? George Washington. I have had clients tell me, because I always give quizzes to them right before they're going to have their interview, and I have had more than one client tell me, Abraham Lincoln? Because they mix up Abraham Lincoln with, they mix up Lincoln with Washington. But that's okay. If I had to answer questions about who was, who were some of the historical people in Latin American history, I would have a problem. Okay, so Washington, father of the country. George Washington was the commander of the army during the American Revolution. He presided over the Constitutional Convention and he was the first president of the United States. And again, if you watched Hamilton, by the way, if you haven't watched Hamilton, you should. You can find it on YouTube. You should watch it because it does explain, it fudges the facts a little bit, but it does explain a lot of what was going on during the colonial time and right after we won our independence. So one of the things they talked about in Hamilton was that, you know, he could have continued to be president. He was president for I don't remember. Well, it says who was the first president? It's going to say when he was president, right? Yeah, he was president from 1789 to 1797. So he was president for 8 years, but then he stepped aside. And just like in the musical, you know, a lot of people were shocked that he was going to do that because, you know, who else would lead the country? He was the father of the country. Who else would lead it besides Washington? And it was very cool that he did that. Unfortunately, I think he died very soon thereafter. But he died back home in Virginia. So now we're moving into the 1800s. You ready? What territory did the United States buy from France in 1803? There's a couple of possible answers. 2, the Louisiana Territory, or just simply the Louisiana Purchase, or just simply Louisiana, but it wasn't just Louisiana. You know, it went all the way up to Oregon and in Washington State. It was huge. Jefferson would then, a few years later, hire a couple of guys to go explore it. Well, that's Lewis and Clark, but I'm trying to think of the native who was Sacagawea. Sacagawea was the Indian woman, the native woman who went with them and served as a translator. So, back to Louisiana Territory. Explanation. Known as the Louisiana Purchase, the United States paid France $15 million for the 828,000 square miles of land. That's a whole bunch of land. Okay, name one war fought by the U.S. in the 1800s. There's a couple of them. In fact, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. The War of 1812, which, trust me, nobody knows what that was about. And by that, I mean, no native-born citizen has any idea what the War of 1812 was all about. The Mexican-American War, well, we know what that was about. The Civil War, we certainly know what that was about. And the Spanish-American War, which I think is how we ended up with Puerto Rico, isn't it? I don't know. But you don't need to know what they were about. You just need to know that it was the War of 1812 or the Mexican-American War or the Civil War or the Spanish-American War. If you had to pick one, pick the Civil War. It's a big one. Number 13, name the U.S. war between the North and the South. I think I just gave that away. You have a couple of correct answers. 1, the Civil War, also known as 2, the war between the states. The American Civil War was fought between 1861 and 1865 between the Union Army and the Confederate States of America. The Confederate States had said, you're not taking slavery away from us, we're going to secede from the Union. So we went and fought them, and we won. Sorry, Alabama. I have family living down south in Alabama and Tennessee, but And they're still not over the Civil War. My family is, but there's a lot of people down south that they still hate the Yankees, which would be me. I don't know. I got over the Civil War way before I was even born. Okay, name one problem that led to the Civil War. Well, I've already mentioned it. It's the biggie. It's the only one you have to go with. Slavery. However, there were economic reasons and there were states' rights reasons. Now, name one important thing that Abraham Lincoln did. Obviously, he's a very, very important president. So, there's multiple answers. He freed the slaves. He did that. He had the Emancipation Proclamation. That's like 7 years ago. Our forefathers. The Emancipation Proclamation. So 7 years ago would be 87 years ago. The Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves. He led the U.S. during the Civil War. He saved or preserved the Union. It's another possible answer. Abraham Lincoln served as U.S. President from 1861 until he was assassinated in 1865. And by the way, if you want to Google something that's interesting, Google similarities between Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. It's unbelievable how many similarities there are. Like one of them, JFK's vice president was Lyndon Johnson, right? Well, Abraham Lincoln's vice president was Andrew Johnson. They both had Johnsons as their... Okay, I don't want to say it like that. That's... Should I cut that or should I not cut that? I don't think I could say they both had Johnsons when I'm talking about two very famous presidents. But let's put it like this. Their vice presidents both had the last name of Johnson. Leave it at that. Oh my God. Every time before I post this, I have to go through a whole list of questions from YouTube. And one of them is this video made for children? Yes or no? I always click no, but I'm really going to click no today. Okay, what did the Emancipation Proclamation do? I just told you that. Oh my God. But there's multiple possibilities. The Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves, freed slaves in the Confederacy, freed slaves in most southern states. Why does that say most? Oh, because not all southern states had slavery. Okay. Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which went into effect on January 1st, 1863. What does Susan B. Anthony do? You know anything about women? Well, apparently you only need to know about one. Forget about Sacagawea. The only one you really need to know about is Susan B. Anthony. Multiple correct answers. 1, fought for women's rights, fought for civil rights. Explanation. Susan B. Anthony was a legendary women's rights activist and a pioneer of the women's suffrage movement. But I'll make you a bet that 99% of native-born citizens could that 99% of U.S. citizens would not be able to tell you when she lived. I mean, we know it's the 1800s, right? Because we're talking about the 1800s. But I bet you they couldn't give you, well, she lived from about this date to that date. Nope. And they say, fought for civil rights. Well, what exactly did she do? Most Americans don't know. And frankly, I think the government doesn't care if you know or not. You just have to know that She fought for women's rights and she fought for civil rights. And you'll get the answer correct. Okay, so recent American history and other important historical information. So now we're moving into the 1900s. Name one war fought by the United States in the 1900s. Come on, people. You got to be able to get this one right. You got World War I. We got World War II. You've got the Korean War, which was not a war, by the way, because it was never declared. We've got the Vietnam War, also not a war, because it was never declared. And we had the Persian Gulf War, which is strange. It's the only one that I was alive for the Vietnam War, but I remember next to none of it. Not really. I remember having a POW bracelet. But the Persian Gulf War I lived through, and I could not tell you if that was, if the Congress declared that or if that was just, Bush doing it. Well, good. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be trying to teach you when I don't know half the answers. Well, I do know half the answers. I just don't know the specifics of the Persian Gulf War. And I know the answer to this one because I was a history major. Who was president during World War I? Woodrow Wilson. And I should know that because that was the name of my junior high school. Woodrow Wilson was president from 1913 until 1921. 20. Who was president during the Great Depression and World War II? Well, that you should also know because this is another biggie, a real important president. That was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, also known as FDR. His cousin, Theodore Roosevelt, they both have the same last name, but Theodore pronounced it Roosevelt and Franklin pronounced it Roosevelt. That's if you go to trivia at the bar and they ask you that question. So it's Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And oh my goodness, that was the last question. I was having so much fun. Well, that was the last question. So anyway, how many of them did you get right? Did you get at least 12? I hope so. I think I'm going to do this verbally next time too, because this is more fun than sitting there trying to make up the list itself. Oh my God, just trying to do the quiz. It's like it would take me days. This is so much faster and easier. Plus, you can see all the mistakes I make. And I'm going to leave that one thing in about the names of the vice presidents for Lincoln and for Kennedy. Why not? We have a snow day today. It's overcast. It's cold. I have my life. Boy, I really look like a little old lady now, don't I? Anyway, I hope you had a good time. Let me see. What did I say here? You can take the earlier 4 parts of this test by going through the playlist. That's true. A lot of people actually like these. I get a fair number of people doing this quiz. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the last 2 parts of this series, including the new questions that are going to come in. And by the way, I want to mention 2 things. One, join me every Sunday. This is if you have any questions about immigration. Join me every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I do a live stream. I've done 3. Nobody showed up for the first one or the second one. So I had something already planned to talk about. And then the third one, I was talking about Trump having a stroke because I'd had a stroke too in July. And I'm sure that he had a stroke. I have no doubt in my mind. And I talked a little bit about what it's like to have a stroke, what that feels like. and what are some things he's probably going through. But I did have three. What I was going to say is that I did have three people who showed up. They came in, they stayed for about 10 seconds, and then they left. Oh well. But hey, I had people show up, so that's good. I think that meant that I had a good thumbnail more than anything else. You know what? I think what I'll do for next Sunday, I'm going to do the rest of these questions in the live stream at 10 o'clock on Sunday, because I think it doesn't really go out to the rest of the world until the next day. I'm pretty sure that's it. So I'll be ready for Monday, and then I don't have to prepare anything else but any new crazy thing that's going on. Like, have we bombed Venezuela yet? Oh my God, this guy. I don't know. Not going to get into politics about it, but anyway. So show up for the live stream, and we'll do this again. And you can actually comment. See, if you're in the live stream, you can chat, you can comment, and we can talk. And another thing I started, and I feel dumb even asking about it, but if you like to support the channel, because I'm basically retired at this point. I haven't taken any cases. I had the stroke in July, and I haven't taken any cases. It's just, I get this brain fog. I can't type, right? This left hand is still a problem. And I'm going to retire. But I'm basically living off of Social Security. So if you want to leave a tip, feel free. I have a Buy Me a Coffee page. I'll leave the link below for you. And nobody's done that yet either. I only started that about three weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. So I figure sooner or later somebody's going to buy me a coffee. I don't know. But maybe it's a Christmas gift. And hit subscribe. I think I have at this point like 54 subscribers. So what I want to do is by the end of December, this is December 2nd right now. By the end of December, I have 54. I want to get like 75 by the end of December. And that's a stretch because I only get, it took me 6 months to get 50. So I don't know if I can get 75 by the end of December, but you could help me out. If you like this and you're interested in immigration law, if you want to do some quizzes, because I'm going to do, after these quizzes are done, because I'm going to run out of questions, then we're going to do different types of questions, basically about the history of the United States, the geography of the United States. One of the things I want to do is, and I'm going to do this over the Christmas holiday, is can you guess what the most popular surname is in your state? And that's just for informational purposes. It's not, it's not to win an award or anything, but it's just, and the reason that I did that I'm interested in doing that, I haven't checked them all out yet. I'm going to use the 2020 census. But I looked up Florida because I figured since there's so many Latinos in Florida, it's got to be a Latino surname is first, I would think, right? It's not. It's Johnson. It's Johnson. It really is. Number 3 is Smith, and I don't remember what the other ones are, so oh my God, it's Johnson is the oh my God. Okay, never mind. I have to turn this thing off before I'm spiraling out of control. I'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Bye-bye.